So today I'm going to read Horton Hatches an Egg. And there he is. There's Horton. And he's sitting on a nest. Do elephants sit on nests? I wonder. Let me see. Horton hatches an egg. Sighed Maisie, a lazy bird hatching an egg. I'm tired and I'm bored and I've kinks in my legs from just sitting here day after day. It's work, how I hate it. I'd much rather play. I'd take a vacation, fly off for a rest if I could find someone to stay on my nest. If I could find someone, I'd fly away free. Then Horton, the elephant, passed by her tree. Hello, he called the lazy bird, smiling her best. You've nothing to do and I do need a rest. Would you like to sit on the egg on my nest? There's Horton, and he's nice, right? The elephant laughed. Why, of all silly things, I haven't feathers and I haven't wings. Me on your egg, why, that doesn't make sense. Your egg is so small, ma'am, and I'm so immense. Tut, tut, answered Maisie. I know you're not small, but I'm sure you can do it, no trouble at all. Just sit on it softly, you're gentle and kind. Come be a good fellow, I know you won't mind. I can't, said the elephant. Please, begged the bird. I won't be gone long, sir, I give you my word. I'll hurry right back, why I'll never be missed. Very well, said the elephant, since you insist. You want a vacation, go fly off and take it. I'll sit on your egg and I'll try not to break it. I'll try to be faithful, I mean what I say. Toodle-doo, sang out Maisie and fluttered away. There she goes. Let's see what happens. The first thing to do, muttered Horton. Let's see, the first thing to do is to prop up this old tree and make it much stronger. That has to be done before I get on it. I must weigh a ton. There he goes. He's propping up the tree. And there's the little egg. Let's see what happens. Then carefully, gently, tenderly, he crept up the trunk to the nest where the little egg slept. There's the little egg right there. There he goes. And he's doing it cheerfully too, isn't he? He's helping out Maisie the lazy bird, and he's being kind about it. His attitude is good. So there he is. He's sitting on the tree. Then Horton the elephant smiled. Now that's that. And he sat, and he sat, and he sat, and he sat. And he sat all that day, and he sat all that night, and he kept the egg warm, and he sat all that night through a terrible storm. It poured and it lightened. It thundered, it rumbled. This isn't much fun, the poor elephant grumbled. I wish she'd come back, 'cause I'm cold and I'm wet. I hope that Maisie bird doesn't forget. Let's see. But Maisie, by the time, was far off beyond reach, enjoying the sunshine way off in Palm Beach, and having such fun, such a wonderful rest, decided she'd never go back to her nest. That's a lazy bird. All she wants to do is vacation. She doesn't want to do the work, does she? So Horton kept sitting there day after day, and soon it was autumn and the leaves blew away. And then came winter, the snow and the sleet and the icicles hung from his trunk and his feet, and Horton kept sitting there day and said with a sneeze, I'll stay on this egg and I won't let it freeze. I meant what I said and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. Well, he looks miserable, but he said he's doing what he said. That's important. So Horton sat there the whole winter through. And then came the springtime with troubles anew. His friends gathered round. They shouted with glee. Look, Horton, the elephant's up in a tree. They taunted, they teased him, they yelled. How absurd. Our Horton, old Horton, the elephant, thinks he's a bird. He doesn't really think he's a bird, but he's just telling people that he's faithful. He did what he said. They laughed and they laughed and they all ran away, and Horton was lonely and wanted to play, but he sat on the egg and continued to say, I meant what I said and I said what I meant, and elephant's faithful 100%. So there goes all his friends. They're all going to play. And there's old Horton on the tree sitting on the egg. Let's see. No matter what happens, this egg must be tended. But poor Horton's troubles were far, far from ended. For while Horton sat there, so faithful, so kind, 3 hunters came sneaking up softly behind. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3. They came up behind Horton. Let's see what happens. He heard the men's footsteps. He turned with a stare. 3 rifles were aiming straight at his heart. Uh-oh. I hope he doesn't get hurt, because he's trying to help out that Maisie lazy bird. Okay, let's see. Did he run? He did not. Horton stayed on that nest. He held his head high and he threw out his chest. And he looked at the hunters as much as to say, shoot if you must, but I won't run away. I meant what I said and I said what I meant, and elephant's faithful 100%. Good for him. He's standing on his principles. But the men didn't shoot, much to Horton's surprise. They dropped their 3 guns and they stared with wide eyes. Look, they all shouted, can such a thing be? An elephant sitting on top of a tree? Huh? I don't think I've ever seen that. It's strange, it's amazing, it's wonderful, new. Don't shoot him, we'll catch him. That's just what we'll do. We'll take him alive. Why, he's terribly funny. We'll sell him back home to the circus for money. Him away. Uh-oh. Let's see. And the first thing he knew, they had built a big wagon with ropes on the front for pullers to drag on. They dug up his tree and they put him inside, while Horton, so sad, he practically cried. He was so sad. We're off, the men shouted, and off they all went, with Horton unhappy 100%. Men pull the thing. Oh, this one's got a pipe. Up out of the jungle, up into the sky, up over the mountains, 10,000 feet high, then down the mountains and down to the sea went the cart with the elephant egg nest and tree. There they go. They're going up one big mountain and down the other side. I think it probably would have been easier to go around, but you know, you do what you have to do. Could have used Lenny's tractor, couldn't they, to pull it? Then out of the wagon and onto a ship and out over the ocean. And oh, what a trip! Rolling and tossing and splashing with spray. And Horton said, day after day after day, I meant what I said and I said what I meant. But oh, am I seasick 100%? Poor Horton. Poor Horton. And bobbing around for 2 weeks like a cork, they landed at last in the town of New York. All ashore, the men shouted, and down with a lurch went Horton, the elephant, still on his perch, tied onto a board that could just scarcely hold him. Bump! Horton landed, and then the men sold him. Would you buy him? Would you buy him for money? Look at him. Poor Horton. And the egg is still being kept safe and dry by Horton. Sold to the circus, then week after week, they showed him off. They showed him to people at 10 cents a peek. They took him to Boston, to Kalamazoo, Chicago, Weehawken, and Washington, too, to Dayton, Ohio, St. Paul, Minnesota, to Wichita, Kansas, and Drake, North Dakota. And everywhere thousands of folks flocked to see and laugh at the elephant up in the tree. Poor Horton grew sadder the farther he went. I meant what I said. And said as he sat in the hot, noisy tent, I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. All the people are going to see the Horton the elephant in the tree. Then one day, who's that? There's Maisie the lazy bird. Then one day, the circus show happened to reach a town way down south, not so far from Palm Beach, and dawdling along way up high in the sky, who of all people should chance to fly by but that old good-for-nothing bird, Runaway Maisie. Still on vacation and still just as lazy, and spying the flags and the tents just below, she sang out, "What fun! I'll go to a show." I think she's going to be surprised what she sees. Let's see what she sees. Oh my goodness, there she is. Let's see what happens. There's Horton and Maisie the lazy bird. And she swooped from the clouds through an open tent door. Good gracious, gasped Maisie. I've seen you before. Poor Horton looked up with his face white as chalk. He started to speak, but before he could talk. Then rang out the noisiest, ear-splitting squeaks from the from the egg that he'd sat on for 51 weeks. A thumping, a bumping, a wild, a live scratching. "My egg!" shouted Horton. "My egg! Why, it's hatching!" But at that very instant, the egg burst apart, and out of the pieces of red and white shell from the egg that he'd sat on so long and so well, Horton the elephant saw something whiz. It had ears and a tail and a trunk just like his. "But it's mine," screamed the bird when she heard the egg crack. "The work was all done, and she wanted it back. It's my egg," she sputtered. "You stole it from me. Get off of my nest and get out of my tree." Horton backed down with a sad, heavy heart. Sorry, I missed that other page. But at that very instant, the egg burst apart, and out of the pieces of red and white shell from the egg that he'd sat on so long and so well, Horton the elephant saw something whiz. It had ears and a tail and a trunk just like his. Look, it looks like Horton. And the people came shouting, "What's all this about?" And they looked and they stared with their eyes popping out. Then they all cheered and cheered, and they cheered more and more. They'd never seen anything like it before. "My goodness, my gracious," they shouted. "My word, it's something brand new. It's an elephant bird." And it should be like that, because Horton was faithful, and he sat and he sat. He said what he meant, and he meant what he said. And they sent him home happy 100%. Now that means when we say we're going to do something, we need to do it, right? It's a good story. I love that story. Okay, love you all. Mwah, mwah.